Hi there and welcome. This is Roger V, one of the tech guys here and the designer over at MaxLead Pro. And in this quick video, we're going to show you how to create forms. Now, forms are incredibly useful to connect any site to MaxLead Pro. Now, before we get started, just for clarity, we should probably spell out that there are a couple types of forms. Most common is capture. And that's early stage in the sales process, and you generally only want to capture an absolute minimum of fields such as name, email, maybe phone. If you're going to only get the phone, if you're intending to actually pick up the phone and call them, or you will reduce the number of inputs, or you'll just get Mickey Mouse data. People just put in junk data. And anyway, but the goal of the capture form is, of course, to create and start an ongoing relationship with people. And so consequently, the fields that you're going to create are just these minimum fields. Okay, that's pretty obvious. You've all seen that before. Next, there's forms for qualification. And then there's also full application. So what I mean by this, now qualification forms might be if these people are already on your list and you just want to find out, do you own a house, or do you already have a mortgage, or do you qualify for solar panel installation because you need to own a house in order to do so, or whatever it is that you sell. You're purposely trying to segment out a small portion of that. So this is typically used to send to people that are already on your initial list. So your SEO sites and your blogs and stuff like that should always have capture forms on them. And in a moment, I'm going to show you how to generate this. I just want you to be clear about what each form should do and how it fits into your overall marketing agenda. So the qualification forms, typically you would use with an autoresponder or a blast to your list. Again, you've already captured a large group of people, and so you send this out to 1,000 people, and your goal is to find out of those 1,000 people, who are the 12 people who are ready to get a mortgage this month, or ready to sell their house this month, or whatever it is that you do. In this case, we're going to talk about marketing cruises in just a moment. And so one of our clients, Captain Lou, is leading in a really incredible event, a marketer's cruise, with our own Bruce Mack. And you'll see leading industry guys. This is Mike Filsaime. He's one of the biggest internet marketers out there. If you don't already know that name, most people already do if you're in that space. And Bruce will be speaking on the cruise. And we're going to show you how to create forms like this, and this is using our own landing page generator. But anyway, so getting back to the last type of form is full application, right? So in this case, in the case of the marketer's cruise, step one is going to be really to capture the people. Usually by the time they see this long sales page, they've already been captured somewhere. They've already gone through, let's say, a squeeze page or a squeeze funnel or something, so that you capture the maximum number of sort of interested people, even if they can't afford it, or if they just can't afford the time, or they decide not to go, or whatever the case is. You still want as many gross leads as possible, because maybe they'll want to go next year, right? So you capture them, and then on step 2 you're going to qualify them, and then step 3 is really just to save you time. So the goal of this is just to capture the widest possible, throw the widest possible net. The goal of a qualification form is to narrow that net to just the interested people who are looking to buy whatever it is that you're selling. And then full application, the agenda of that is really to save you time and just to help you gather information, rather than you being on the phone with them. Just give them a form and they'll fill it out, right? And it's simple for both parties, and it's better because they can do it on their own time and be interrupted and fill out the data and get it done, and it's asymmetric, right? So it's much more efficient for you. So let's get into what these might look like. So in this case here, we've got a long sales page. This is again you've got the nice full screen background. We've got the header. We've got the playable video here. Right? I know all of you want to be on that cruise, and this is a really special event because you're not just learning things, but actually implementing things. And I think implementation, sometimes it takes a little bit of a working vacation where you can kind of mix some business and pleasure to get away from the rest of the world and kind of check out for a few days and work on your business instead of in your business. Anyway, this is what this event is. This is one of these client one of our wonderful clients, Lou, and is the event planner with Mike Filsame, combined with Bruce will be on this. So you'll notice that he's got a register button. In this case, there is no capture form, but typically on step 1 you would have just a name and email form, right? This is generally intended for people who are already doing business with MaxLead Pro, so we already have them somewhere in our funnel, our system, at least at the very top. Here we've got the testimonials. We've got lots of different speakers and people who are going, and industry luminaries, and all this exciting information. And at the end of the day, it comes down to the call to action, right? Here's our second call to action, and then our third call to action. So notice we've got 3 calls to action on this page, and you can check this out, by the way, maxleadprocruise.com, if you want to study a well-written sales letter. And this is sales letter format because the event is, frankly, it is a few $1,000s at the end of the day. You don't have to pay that up front. It is a really powerful event and absolutely worth the money and all of that. But it does require a longer sales letter because you're asking for more money, right? If this was a $20 sale, then you can get away with a pretty short sales letter. With a higher priced item, obviously you need more edification. So this is a little audio widget. We're working on that for MaxLead Pro, and here we're starting to actually drill into the sales process, and this is most common: deposit for double occupancy. That's typically a couple, right? A husband or wife or significant other, or whatever the case may be for you. Special somebody. If you want to have more people in your room, or you've got kids or something like that, that's certainly an option as well. Let's get to the actual form. Now here's the actual form for yes, I'm in, right? So this is the sort of the full application. So in this case, we've got typical just text fields. This is a date formatted field. This is an email formatted field, and it will enforce email formatting. And then we've got just a bunch of custom data. Now this is really interesting and exciting. We've got drop-downs here, right? So this is referred by Bruce and MaxLead Pro, right? So we'll show you how to generate a drop-down in just minutes. This is interesting. This is one of the few systems, MaxLead Pro is one of the few systems that can do this without a lot of hacking, which is image-based radio options, right? So we've got a form generator in the back end, and we can show you how to do this. Now this is on the advanced side, but I just wanted to show you kind of what's possible before we dive in and get started. This is a typical radio button. Only one option can be selected, so that's different than a checkbox selection where you could select any number of options. Here we've got another drop down. In this case, it doesn't actually charge the credit card, and this is important because this is another thing that MaxLead Pro can do and not a lot of e-commerce systems can, because the credit card actually gets charged by the cruise line. So in this case, if you decide you want to go on this, it'll get gathered by the cruise tour agent, in this case Captain Lou, but it actually gets charged by the cruise line. And last, you've got an additional comments field. So that's what's possible, and I just wanted to show you that. Next, let's dive into actually making one. And where you do that is simply under Tools, Forms Generator. Tools, Forms Generator. Right, so here we've got, I'm actually logged in as Captain Lou, and he's given us permission to log into his account and kind of take a look around. So what I want to do is first dive into just making a new typical form, very simple, and this would again be used for a capture. And I want to walk you all the way through this. So we're going to call this test landing page. And as I mentioned, this can be installed into any website, not just a MaxLead Pro website, but if you've got a WordPress website, for example, you could add this to the sidebar. Now you'll notice that as I hover over different items in the form, you will see additional options appear. So we'll dive into that in a second. First, let's change this header. Do that by clicking this Edit Blue header. I'm going to put, this is a header file. It can go on and on, or even be multiple colors, or contain links. Okay, so in this case, we're going to link this just by hitting the little chain. link that to maxleadpro.com. If we wanted to, we could just make this an H2, which is like a header file. That's important for SEO, by the way. We could change this to, this is probably already a header file, but we'll change this to a 2. Right? We could change this one here to a 4. And I notice it changes the entire line. If I wanted to undo that and then make this just this one line be an H4, I could, and notice it pops that down because that's the nature of it. If I wanted to center it, then I could just go like that. So I'm going to hit save. That works for me now, and it contains a link. Now if I want to change the nature of this field, I can go here and I can change this to what do I want, right? In this case I want it to stay as a text field because this is a capture form, so most typically you just want their name and their email, right? And that's so that you can set them on a drip marketing autoresponder program, which of course we cover in our other videos, and make sure that if you need access to it, check the help system, and if you still need more help, then by all means let us know and we'll update those videos. Anyway, in this case I want to capture their name and email, but if I wanted to change this to a radio button or text area or anything like that, I certainly could. Now this is the field right here where it says your name. That's what's going to appear before anybody actually starts typing. So notice it says your name right here. You can't actually select it. It's just invisible tooltip, and as soon as I start typing, it disappears, right? So I'm going to put Roger Vaughn. Right? That's my name. Now, if I wanted to actually put some default text, right, then I would put that on the right side. So notice it says default text, right? So I wouldn't do that, but in this case, let's say I was gathering a link, then I would default in http://yoursite.com. Now, if I put in the yoursite.com, somebody's going to actually have to delete that, right? I don't want to actually do that, so I would just put it something like this. This is the text that's going to be there, and it's not going to disappear. This text on the left is going to show there as sort of a suggestion, and it will disappear the minute somebody starts typing. Can also set this as required. In this case, I do want to set this as required, and I could also hit validate user value. I don't frankly know what that does, and I'm going to have to update this help file, but I believe it has to do with the nature of, like if this was an email, I could put in text to make sure that this contains an @ symbol and a .com or .net or something like that. So I've also got an option to add additional text above or below the element. Now, in this case, just for demonstration, I'm going to put your full legal name. And as soon as I do that, what's going to happen is this text is going to appear right above it. No HTML is really allowed in this. I do believe that you could probably put a few basic HTML commands. I think that was what was done with some of the other systems like line break. So line break is less than BR / right greater than, right? I'm not going to do that because it's either disallowed or it only allows basic HTML because that might break the system. So I don't want to get too far into the advanced system choices like using HTML within these boxes because that is also giving you the power to break it. So generally keep it simple until you really know what you're doing, and if you need additional help and are trying to make a form do something that it can't seem to do, you can get in touch with us, and we do have services for hire. You can hire basically me or one of the other tech wizards to make happen what you need to make happen. There is an hourly charge for that sort of thing, so we encourage you to go through the help files and kind of research it and take care of it, but just don't break it unless you know HTML. Don't wander into those woods. So let's go ahead and hit save. Notice it's now got in this element your full legal name, right? Let's do the same thing here, and let's put above element, let's put primary email address, something like that. And I'm going to leave this as there. I'm going to put this as required. Hit save, right? In this case, I don't actually need full legal name. It doesn't matter. And if I wanted to change this, I could certainly change the color, right? I could change it to orange, right? And submit this is never a good choice for a button. It defaults to that because we want you to understand what that button is doing. But learn more now is much more inviting, right? None of us want to submit to something that sounds like a submissive sort of position. It's just not a good choice of words from a marketing perspective. So learn more now is a little more exciting and interesting. Email privacy, this stuff needs to be there. We hit save and next. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back to custom fields. So it's going to take me to step 2, but I'm going to actually just go ahead and click 1. I'm going to go back. I'm going to add a custom field just for demonstration purposes, and we're going to call this let's say a checkbox. Actually, we'll call it a radio button, right? Now, with radio buttons, I need to have some options. You cannot have a radio button, and the same thing applies for checkboxes, right? I need to have some options for text areas, like a text box, but it's larger, and it is suitable for, typically used for comments, right? In this case, I want to put, choose your options, choose your color, we'll say, and then down here, I'm going to put red, and we're also going to put red. Now, this is used for the computers, and it has to be there, and no spaces are allowed on this side. This is what the database actually stores. This side, on the other hand, is just for the humans, right? So I could put a red Corvette. Whoops, help if I spell it correctly. Red Corvette, and over here I would do it with an underscore, red Corvette. Right? And I'm going to hit add, and now that makes it an option, right? I'm going to put blue underscore Ferrari, all lowercase. It doesn't matter what your case is over here, but you really can't have any spaces. In this case, blue Ferrari. Again, this side on the right is just for the humans. And I'm just creating some options here. And let's say I decide, okay, instead of a either or situation, I want to change this to both. So I'd change that to a checkbox, right? And I say choose your color and car. And we'll say black Bentley, which has an E in it. Black Bentley. I'm typing around the microphone here, so I hit add. In this case, I'm going to again set as required, and if I wanted to put some text, fly wheels, right? Something like that. And this is going to appear right below the element. I encourage you to play with this system. It's fairly straightforward, and you can kind of see me just simply using it, right? Frankly. So notice it says fly wheels, right? Right below. And here are the options. These are all checkbox. You can check any number of these. I'm going to hit save and next. It's now going to send me to the next step, which is what do you want to happen once we've captured this data? Oh, by the way, let me go back to step 1. 2 quick things that I forgot to mention. You can drag fields just like this. Just grab it, and when it's got the little up and down arrows and side to side arrows, that makes it draggable, and you can just resequence them as you see fit. In addition, we've got some pre-customized fields here on the left that you should use if that's the information that you need. And the reason is this will line up to the CRM so that when the data is captured from this system, it feeds into the CRM and lines up nicely. And I'll show you what a form submission looks like in a few minutes. But nonetheless, if you need their address, use address 1 field and that sort of thing. So in this case, I want these people to go into, let's say, marketers cruise leads, something like that. I also want to hit notify me when somebody opts in. And I want to send them to my thank you page. In this case, let's say the full application. Let's say that was because we just generated a capture form that's designed for really a landing page, just to get the basic number of fields and the absolute minimum info and kick off a relationship. And let's say some of those people are going to be ready to book right now. So we're going to use this as our thank you page, and we're going to copy that. And you just go. The easiest way is if you're on a Windows machine. You'll just go up here and you go to click copy, right? If you can also hit Control C if you're on an Apple. You're on a Mac, just hit Apple C. Anyway, copy and paste. Paste in the full, starting with HTTP or HTTPS address over here. We're just going to hit save and next. You can click any of the groups that you see fit. And what it's going to do is as soon as it captures the information, it's going to dump them into or subscribe them to Marketers Cruise Leads. Hit save and next. It's going to bring us to great step 3. Now, what it's actually done is created the form and published it to the web. So if you wanted to just see the form, you could just go down here and copy that, open a new tab, Control T, and this is our form, right? Now notice these are checkboxes, right? And any number are allowed, as I mentioned. And if I leave this blank it's going to tell me that it's required, right? So I'm going to hit learn more now, right? And it says, okay, doing its job, making sure that this has to be full, and this has to be full, right? And we're perfect. Okay, it's processing. It's now going to dump me to the thank you page as requested. Now here's where it gets a little interesting. So if you wanted to embed the entire frame without the iframe wrapper, you could do it via JavaScript, right? Occasionally you'll be on other sites and they don't allow iframes for security reasons, or if you're on a phone, that's kind of generally not best practices if you're expecting a lot of mobile traffic. And so you would want to either just direct somebody to the actual form, that's an option. You can also embed it via JavaScript, right? So if you're using this in a WordPress-based system, then this is most recommended. This will also have the lowest amount of spam submissions because it's JavaScript. It's rendered into the browser using JavaScript, and the spam bots will go out there and do form spam. If you've ever had a web form sitting on your machine, you've probably received web spam, and it looks like somebody filling out your forms. Well, they have robotics that crawl around the web looking for any kind of web form, so they can send them any kind of spam about anything that you don't really necessarily care about. So use JavaScript if you're not sure, and then if you have any problems and it doesn't work, then try the iframe. Just be advised that the iframe may not work so well with mobile traffic. So if you've got desktop traffic and it's mostly going there, then great, use this. And worst case scenario, you can certainly just use this form as it is, although you'd probably want to put that into a landing page. Now this is an incredibly powerful little trick here. This allows you to put the pre-fill, their name and their email, in the URL and put that into a mass email. So if you were going to send this out, remember how I mentioned we've got something called qualification forms, right? In that case, you already know their name and their email because they're on your list already. So you ideally could pre-populate that into the form and make their life easy and show them that you already know who they are. And by doing that, all you do is drop these fields down and click Add to URL, and what it's going to do is send this out. Now you don't want to do this unless you are sending this out for mass email, right? So it defaults to not being there, and we will go here and we'll delete that. Go all the way back to the and symbol. And if we wanted to send this out, we wanted to copy this URL into a video mail or an autoresponder or something like that, again, where we already know who they are, then we could just go like this, hit that button, and notice it appended and email equals email. So the system on the fly replaces this with the recipient's actual email. So there you have it. I hope you found this helpful. The more advanced options look like require some knowledge of HTML. And basically, I'll just touch on that. You can also add custom fields. So we talked about custom fields, but what you can do is you can, in the header, change up here, show the actual HTML, and you could put an iframe here. Iframe equals source, right? Something like that. So it would go there. I'm going to cancel that. But that's where you could put links like an AudioPal thing. In this case, this gentleman is still using an audio player from another system because our audio player is not yet, as of July 2014, up yet, although that may be by the time you see this video, meaning MaxLead Pro may have its own audio player that is on deck for programming. If you wanted to put a YouTube video that is typically embedded through iframe, typically, that could certainly be done either in the header, in the HTML, or, and all you have to do to go back to the regular mode is just click that button again. You can also put, even in this case, if you wanted to change this to a radio button, and so you remember I mentioned the choice of room cabin, right? So here there's an ocean suite. These are all sold out. Here's a balcony ocean view, and these are still available as of today. And if you wanted to show that a picture corresponding with the text, and then what you would do is just go here, and you'd actually have to write in image space img space source. I'll show you here in a moment, but again, don't try this unless you know some basic HTML or fairly confident in what you're doing, but I'll show you anyway here. So I'm giving you the power to break the system. It's not going to break the entire system, but it might break your forms. So what you could do is change this to balcony. And then we put his balcony here. And then what you do is put in, let's say, a break, line break. That's going to switch to a new line. That's what this means. Less than, BR, greater, slash, greater than. And then we're going to put in the image source. And you put in just like this, image src equals quote, quote, and then right here you put in the full link, starting with the HTTP, to the actual image, right? Google.com images logo.png, something like that, right? And then you got to close it with a greater than, right? So that in HTML you always got to open basically you're saying start looking this way and stop looking this way. I'm not going to do this here, but that's, if you know enough HTML to have followed that, that's basically what you can do. You can put HTML into this. This is intended for the human. Just make sure to put the corresponding computer value here. Last, let me wrap up with what happens once the form is filled out. So in this case, I'm going to put Roger Vaughn tests Sunday 8 p.m. That's just for me. I'm going to click these options here, and I'm going to put in Roger at maxleadpro.com. I'm going to hit learn more now. It's going to send me to the thank you page after it processes for a moment.
It's easy.
Which is exactly what I wanted it to do. Okay. Next, in the system, now when we go to Tools, Forms Generator, we're going to have a list of all of our forms, right? So in this case, here's our test landing page. Visit counts 2. And over here, you'll see opt-in data. So here's the data. This is the first time that I was testing, and here's the second time that I was testing. And if I wanted to see the full details, I can just click View, and every field here is just like so. I could even print it if I had a complicated or long form that I needed to print out for some reason. Happens on occasion. We've got a print button there for you. And this data should also be appearing in your contact system in the groups. So if I want to go here and marketers, cruise leads, I'm going to filter it down to that. And here he's got a typo on my last name, but that's because I was already known to be in the system and with a different last name. That's a typo. But the system recognized it. So here's all this info. Hope you found this useful. And if you have any questions, be sure to let us know and we'll update this help file. Thanks.